There's a reason you've never fully fit into one world. A reason you've always felt split between two realities, two identities, two truths that seem to contradict each other. And no one's ever been able to explain it to you, not fully. Not in words that penetrate the soul. But I will. Because if you're watching this, there's a high chance you're not just woke or intuitive, you're something even rarer. You're what I call a bridge chosen one. You didn't come here just to heal yourself. You came here to connect dimensions, to merge timelines, to translate energy into language and spirit into action. You are the in-between, the tether, the living thread that binds the spiritual and the material. And if that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. But your soul prepared for this before you were even born. This life has probably felt like walking on a tightrope. On one side, you feel pulled by the higher realms' intuition, visions, dreams, synchronicities, downloads that make no sense to others but feel like truth in your bones. On the other side, you're deeply rooted in the earthly realm, relationships, obligations, emotions, survival, the day-to-day grind. And while others seem content choosing one lane, you've never had that luxury. Why? Because you were encoded with dual power. A spiritual frequency that allows you to hold both light and shadow, heaven and earth, knowing and unknowing. But dual power comes with dual pressure. And that's why your path has never been ordinary. The first sign of this duality is that you often feel like you're living two lives. Not in a fake way, not in a deceptive way, but in a dimensional way. You might appear grounded, functional, even successful in the outer world, holding a job, raising children, building a business. But inwardly, you're on a wild, often chaotic spiritual journey that no one sees. You receive messages at 3 a.m., have visions in the middle of staff meetings, or feel a presence in the room when no one else does. You're navigating two timelines simultaneously. And the pressure of having to perform in one world while awakening in another can feel unbearable unless you realize this is your gift. You're not meant to choose between them. You're meant to bridge them. The second sign is your relationship with truth. You can feel when someone's lying even if their words are perfect. You sense the energy behind the sentence. You read the unspoken, and it's maddening, isn't it? Because people get uncomfortable when you reflect back what they're trying to hide, even if you do it silently. But that's your power. You're not just intuitive. You're a mirror. You reflect the truth so clearly that others can't help but react. Some will run, some will attack. But the right ones? They'll be transformed by your presence. They'll remember who they are just by being near you. That's not magic. That's resonance. The third sign of being a bridge chosen one is your deep inner conflict. You're not confused, you're conflicted. One part of you craves stillness, silence, solitude. The other part burns with vision, mission, and impact. You want to meditate for days and also build systems that change the world. You want to disappear into the mountains and post a message online that reaches millions. This isn't indecision. This is duality in motion. Your soul knows that silence breeds clarity, and clarity births movement. You're here to master both, to rest and to rise, to receive and to give, to embody and to express. Fourth, you've had radical moments of disillusionment. You've lost faith not in spirit, but in systems, in religions, in influences, in people who claim the light but hide their shadow. You've seen through the illusion of spiritual performance, and it left you raw, maybe even bitter. But that disillusionment was sacred. It was your initiation into authenticity, into discernment. You didn't lose faith, you refined it. And now you don't follow blindly. You listen. You feel. You know. And that knowing, it's what makes you dangerous to illusions. That's why you trigger others, not because you're wrong, but because you can't be manipulated. Fifth, your body reacts to energy like it's alive, because it is. You feel sick in rooms where people are lying. You feel electric near certain individuals. You've had chills, nausea, sudden exhaustion, or bursts of power that seem to come from nowhere. Your body is not just physical, it's spiritual technology. It's a tuning fork for truth. And you've had to learn the hard way that not all energy is yours to carry. You've absorbed too much. But here's the key. Once you learn to discern what's yours and what's not, you unlock the ability to transmute energy. You stop being a sponge and become an alchemist. The sixth sign is that you've always felt like a translator. You translate emotion into language. You translate spiritual truth into practical wisdom. You translate silence into presence. You've probably had people tell you, "I didn't even know I felt that until you said it." That's not just empathy. That's energetic fluency. You can read the emotional and spiritual landscapes of others with such clarity that you become a compass for those who are lost. But here's the deeper truth. You're not here to lead people to you. You're here to lead them back to themselves. And the seventh sign, the most undeniable one, is this. You've always known you were here for something more. Even when you didn't have the words, even when you tried to play small, even when you were drowning in trauma, addiction, or depression, you knew. Somewhere inside, you knew. And that knowing never left you. It haunted you. It whispered to you when you were about to give up. And now, that whisper is getting louder. It's saying, it's time. Time to stop hiding. Time to stop doubting. Time to remember. But let me ask you something real, something that might shake you. What if the reason you've suffered so much is because you were training to be a bridge in a world collapsing between extremes? What if your duality isn't a flaw, but the exact architecture needed to hold the new frequency of Earth?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
If you're a bridge chosen one, you've likely spent most of your life trying to choose between two worlds because no one ever told you that you were designed to hold them both. Society conditions us to pick a side, be spiritual or be grounded, be intuitive or be logical, be mystical or be practical. But you were coded differently. You are not here to pick a side. You are the living link between the two. And that code, your dual nature, is not your burden. It's your blueprint. It's what allows you to translate the divine into the human. It's why you can talk to angels and still pay your bills. It's why you can channel higher realms and still show up for your family. And mastering both doesn't mean balancing them perfectly. It means accepting your unique rhythm of integration. The truth is, being wired for both the seen and unseen worlds means you'll constantly feel like you're being pulled apart. One moment you're receiving downloads so profound they make your body tremble. The next moment someone's asking you to take out the trash or answer emails. And that shift hurts, doesn't it? It feels like being yanked out of a sacred temple and thrown into noise. But here's the secret. That's the training. That's how you build the muscle of spiritual embodiment. Anyone can feel divine in a monastery. But can you carry that divinity into the grocery store? Can you stay connected to Source while surrounded by chaos? That's where your mastery is forged, not in escaping the world, but in infusing it with your presence. We weren't sent here to float above the world. We were sent here to rewire it. And to do that, we have to get our hands dirty. We have to feel everything. The grief, the hope, the rage, the ecstasy. Because the bridge doesn't just pass energy, it feels it. And we cannot alchemize what we refuse to feel. That's why your emotions are so intense. That's why your nervous system sometimes feels like it's on fire. You're not broken. You're open. And yes, that's painful, but it's also powerful. Because what you feel, you can transmute. What you carry, you can heal for yourself and for the collective. But let's get honest. It's exhausting, isn't it? Holding both realities. Being the strong one for others while managing a storm inside. Feeling ancient wisdom flow through you while still trying to remember to drink water or answer texts. That exhaustion is real, but it's not a sign to quit. It's a sign to recalibrate. To stop pretending you're just like everyone else. You're not. Your energy works differently. Your nervous system is sensitive because it was designed to detect subtle frequencies. Your body needs more rest because it's constantly translating higher dimensional codes. Your soul needs solitude, not because you're antisocial, but because you're integrating multidimensional truths into a 3D reality. That takes energy. That takes sacred maintenance. So how do you master both worlds without breaking? You stop trying to be normal. You stop apologizing for your sensitivity. You stop forcing yourself into routines that don't honor your energy. And you start building a life that protects your frequency. That means cutting cords with people who only know how to drain you. That means creating rituals that reconnect you to your divine source. That means saying no without guilt and yes without fear. You're not here to live a conventional life. You're here to embody a converging one where the physical and the spiritual are not separate, but symbiotic. And here's the deeper truth. You can't master both worlds if you're still trying to belong to either. You were never meant to fully belong. You're not here to be claimed by a single tribe or tradition. You're here to weave the threads between many, to speak the languages of mystics and scientists, of visionaries and skeptics. And that means you'll often feel misunderstood, misplaced. But that's not because you're lost, it's because you're ahead. You're not the echo, you're the frequency shift. And one day the world will catch up to the vibration you've been holding all along. So I ask you, when will you stop trying to shrink into what others can understand? When will you stop waiting for permission to live as the bridge you were born to be? What's the cost of continuing to deny your dual nature? And what kind of world could you build if you finally accepted that your contradiction is actually your superpower? If you've made it this far, you already know something most people never dare to admit to themselves. Your life is not random. Your existence is not accidental. You were placed here in this specific time, in this specific body, with this specific soul contract, for a reason that stretches beyond logic or comprehension. And while the world often demands clarity before action, your path has always been reversed. You were called first, and only later do the answers begin to reveal themselves. That's because bridge-chosen ones are not navigated by maps. We are navigated by code, spiritual instructions buried deep in our bones, activated not by understanding but by alignment. And once that activation begins, 3 sacred tasks begin to rise to the surface. 3 missions that are not optional. They are written into the architecture of your being. You feel them even if you don't fully understand them yet. But once you remember them, everything starts to make sense. The first task is to anchor higher consciousness into the physical world. You're not here to escape this reality. You're here to upgrade it. That's why you've always had a strange relationship with the material world. You can't fully reject it, but you can't fully attach to it either. You see its illusions, but you also feel its beauty. You know money is an illusion, yet you understand its energetic power. You're not here to play the old game, you're here to rewrite the rules. That starts with how you live, how you speak, how you think. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, presence over productivity, intuition over control, you're anchoring a new frequency. You're showing others that it's possible to be deeply spiritual and deeply human. That you can be mystical without being disconnected, wealthy without being corrupted, successful without selling your soul. You are the embodiment of the new paradigm, and it doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. The second task is to transmute ancestral and collective wounds. This one is heavy, and you've felt its weight most of your life. You've carried pain that wasn't yours, fears that didn't begin with you, emotional patterns that repeat like echoes through generations. And for a long time you thought something was wrong with you, but you were never cursed. You were called. Your soul volunteered to incarnate into a lineage, a culture, a bloodline that needed healing. That needed someone who could feel deeply enough to notice what had been suppressed for centuries. And here you are, feeling it all, holding it all, but not to be consumed by it. You are the end of the old story. You are the alchemist, the one who turns generational pain into generational power. And that transmutation doesn't happen through force. It happens through compassion, through rituals, choices, forgiveness, boundaries, and honoring the sacred mess of your own healing. Every time you choose to feel instead of numb, speak instead of silence, forgive instead of repeat, you are breaking the chain. You are setting the future free. The third task is to awaken others through frequency, not force. You are not here to convince anyone of anything. You are not here to prove your path or argue your truth. Your mission is not to preach, it is to emit, to radiate. You awaken others not by telling them what to believe, but by being so deeply aligned with your own truth that it becomes impossible to ignore. Your presence becomes a mirror, a memory, a spark that reactivates something ancient in the people around you. This is why you've been through so much. Why your path was never easy. Because the more you transmit, the more you transmit. The more you heal, the more you hold space for others to do the same. And this kind of awakening, the kind born of resonance, is unstoppable. It bypasses the mind and goes straight to the soul. People don't know why they feel different around you. They just do. That's not charisma. That's coded light. That's what happens when someone fully steps into their bridge assignment. But none of these tasks can be completed from a place of self-denial. They require radical self-acceptance. They require you to stop waiting for someone to validate who you are. They require you to stop playing small so other people can stay comfortable. You don't need permission. You don't need a title. You don't need a platform. Your frequency is your mission. Your life is the initiation. And every moment you choose alignment over avoidance, you fulfill your task. Every moment you choose truth over convenience, you fulfill your task. Every moment you choose presence over programming, you fulfill your task. So I ask you now, with all the love and power in my voice, what would your life look like if you finally stopped trying to be understood and started living as if you understood yourself? What would shift if you stopped asking for signs and realized you were the sign? At some point in your journey, you'll realize the loneliness you've carried wasn't a punishment, it was a preparation. You were never meant to fit into a world built on fear, control, and illusion. You were meant to disrupt it simply by existing in your truth. That ache you felt since childhood, that feeling of being out of place, misunderstood, too sensitive, too intense, it wasn't because you were flawed. It was because you were encoded to be incompatible with systems that are designed to keep people small, quiet, obedient. You are here to collapse those systems not with anger, not with violence, but with frequency, with embodiment, with a presence so rooted in divine truth that illusion can't survive in the same room. You see, old systems don't fall because we attack them. They fall because we stop feeding them. They fall when enough people wake up and say, "This is no longer true for me." The system thrives on your attention, your fear, your silence. But the moment you reclaim your energy, the moment you stop pretending it's okay to live inauthentically, just to be accepted, you become a glitch in the matrix. You become the crack in the wall where the light gets in. And when enough chosen ones start living in alignment, everything starts to shift, not through rebellion, but through resonance, through the quiet, steady radiance of those who refuse to betray themselves anymore. And that's why your life has felt heavy at times. Because you've been trying to walk a path that no one around you has walked. You've been trying to explain yourself to people who have no reference for the frequency you hold. You've doubted yourself not because you were wrong, but because the world wasn't yet ready to reflect your truth back to you. But that's changing. The world is starving for authenticity, for depth, for realness. And those of us who've been walking between worlds, we are the first wave. We are the ones who dissolve the old by living the new. But to do that, you must stop outsourcing your authority. You must stop waiting for a system, a teacher, a partner, or a platform to tell you that you're enough. You already are. You are enough the moment your soul chose this incarnation. And the more you live from that knowing, the more everything around you begins to realign. You'll notice people falling away not because something's wrong, but because your frequency is rising. You'll lose jobs, opportunities, and relationships that were built on your previous self, and that's okay. You're not losing. You're making space for what's real, for what's aligned, for what can hold the magnitude of who you truly are. You're not here to dim your light to avoid attention. You're here to shine so brightly that everything false falls apart in your presence. You're not here to fit into roles that were never designed for your soul. You're here to invent new ones, to show others what's possible when we stop pretending. And that kind of leadership doesn't always come with applause. It comes with clarity, with peace, with the unshakable knowing that you are finally living in integrity with your mission. So I leave you with this. Stop trying to be understood by systems that were never built to hold your truth. Stop diluting your essence to make it digestible. You were not born to be tolerated. You were born to transmit, to remind, to awaken. And yes, it's a lonely road sometimes, but it's also the most sacred one. Because when you live as a bridge chosen one, you don't just change your life, you change the frequency of the entire planet. And that is why you're here.